with hiking stick in hand, a loaf of bread, and a book by Thoreau. A lone man left all behind to see what there was ahead of him. He did not have a company of men to hoist his pack, a letter of credit with presidential seal. He had nothing and no one, not even a dog to protect him. But what he did have was vision, and words to portray it. He almost lost his vision while at work in an Illinois sawmill. His call to adventure was a stick in the eye. Luckily, his eyes healed and he regained that sight. The man rebelled with great appreciation. This accident marked his purpose, the beginning of a lifelong journey of self-discovery. He began with a short walk of 1,000 miles from Illinois to Florida. There was no map or guide to rely on. It was not a race against time, no glory at the end of a rainbow, or specific destination in mind. That he landed in Florida was not by design. As Yogi Berra would say, if there was a fork in the road, he took it. Traveling through what was still wild country and more threatening Civil War renegades, had you seen him walking, stopping, and examining a flower, you might mistake him for a crazy hermit, until you read what he wrote about it. From Florida, he made his way by boat to San Francisco. When he stepped foot back on land, he took one look around and didn't like what he saw. So he asked, "Which way to the mountains?" "East," was the reply. So off again by foot he went, to a valley carpeted by flowers. His feet then took him to Yosemite, which would be his temple for many years to come. Here he climbed some incredible peaks without a rope or a plan. His name? John Muir, of course, nature's saint. And if you haven't heard of him, you've never slept under the stars. One of John Muir's first and most famous writings are when he was traveling to the Sierras that first time. At my feet lay the great Central Valley of California, level and flowery like a lake of pure sunshine, 40 or 50 miles wide, 500 miles long, one rich furred garden of yellow composite. And from the eastern boundary of this vast golden flower bed rose the mighty Sierra. Miles in height, and so gloriously colored and so radiant, it seemed not clothed with light, but wholly composed of it, like the wall of some celestial city. Then it seemed to me that the Sierra should be called not the Nevada or Snowy Range, but the Range of Light. Muir was not a hero for his wanderings or discovery. He was a hero for his convincing inspirations, his words in books and papers that rang true to your soul and many souls. Words did not come easy, though, Muir claimed, as he worked and he reworked and wrangled them like wrestling a bear, until they formed paragraphs as grand as the spires around him. Renowned he was for the run-on sentence, yet every word captivates you like a doe standing in the morning dew meadow, like the falls leaping from the walls of the canyons. He was poetic, scientific, philosophical, a Renaissance man, a man that could make you laugh at the same time cry. He could make you, as he made Congress, care about the mountains, the trees, and all that lived within the forest. To expound upon all of Muir's adventures and qualities would take novels. He wrote 10 books himself. He preferred that if you took the pleasure of reading them, you do so under a tree. These writings, with excerpts appearing in magazines across the country, were responsible for creating an awareness of nature in people's minds that they never thought of before. Thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home, that wildness is a necessity, and that mountain parks and reservations are useful not only as fountains of timber and irrigating rivers, but as fountains of life. America was just on the heels of a civil war. Conservation was just as far from people's minds as China. Money was on their minds. Any other words besides Muir's were falling on deaf ears, but when Muir wrote and Muir talked, people took it to heart and they listened. So what makes this man any more hero than Meriwether Lewis? He marked few trails people could pursue trade on. He saved no damsel in distress that I know of. What Muir saved was the nature of this nation. He was co-founder and first president of the Sierra Club, turning Yosemite around from this path of commercial destruction to the national park that it is today. Think about it if you have time, which is one thing Muir had an abundance of. The throes of nature were his home, the light that shined upon the mountains, butter upon his bread. When Lewis and company reached their destination, they were more eager than a beaver to get back to civilization and regale in the social gatherings of the affluent. Reap the rewards. John Muir was quite the opposite beast. He reaped his rewards in nature. Eventually, he met and married a woman, something Lewis could never quite manage to accomplish. She even came with land in Martinez near the Bay Area, and he took up residence with her from time to time. But he was like a caged lion, and his wife knew it. She knew when it was time to release him back to the wild, at least for a spell or two. Meriwether Lewis, he was a brilliant man, but Muir was a walking bearded Einstein. Muir knew more on the tip of his finger about botany than Lewis could ever wish for. If John Muir had one unpleasing quality, it was that he liked to butt heads. One person John Muir particularly liked to butt heads with was Josiah Whitney. Now, Whitney was the head geologist for the state of California, and he even had the highest mountain named after him, which today stands right next to Mount Muir. Now, Whitney claimed that Yosemite was created from a giant earthquake, whereas Muir claimed that it was created from glacial action. Muir, with no geological education or background, was right. Whitney was particularly upset by the fact that while Muir spent his time enjoying the woods, he was in Congress battling to have Yosemite recognized as a national park. Well, it only took one visit from Theodore Roosevelt camping alongside of John Muir to realize the truth that, yes, indeed, it did need to be preserved as a national park. Everything in nature he was in tune with, and rejoiced in his findings that all was connected. In a recent Sierra Magazine interview with Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, here's what he had to say about John Muir. If you think about all the gains our society has made from independence to now, it wasn't government, it was activism. People think, oh, Teddy Roosevelt, he established Yosemite National Park. What a great president. Bullshit. It was John Muir who invited Roosevelt out and then convinced him to ditch his security and go camping. It was Muir, an activist, a single person. Thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home, that wilderness is a necessity, and that mountain parks and reservations are useful not only as fountains of timber and irrigating rivers, but as fountains of life. Documentary filmmaker Ken Burns said, as we got to know him, he ascended to the pantheon of the highest individuals in our country. I'm talking about the level of Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King and Thomas Jefferson, people who have had a transformational effect on who we are. Now, that might be taking things a bit too far, but one thing is for certain. John Muir claimed his throne in Yosemite as nature's savior and saint.